Good evening, all, and welcome to your Fireside Chat with Mr. Unger. I hope this to be a series of videos that we can look at and learn from throughout the year. I'd like to put one out about every week. I'll send them out on Sunday evenings for us just to take a look at and get a feel for what's going on and maybe glean some information from past experiences. So sit back, listen in, and I hope you enjoy. I'll keep this fairly brief, but I do want to get a story across to you. So, thinking back into my teaching career, one of the first experiences I had at a middle school, I came in, I've been teaching science for many, many years, about a decade in the district. I taught middle school science. And when I came in, I had a great group of teachers I worked with. We had our eighth grade was broken up into teams, similar to what we see now. And we had two teams in the eighth grade, team A, team B. Team A is where I was, and it was the AP, or the Accelerated, the Gifted and Talented Student Team. And then we had Team B, which was typically your ECE, ESL students, and they were really collected together, and it made for a definite separation. Going through my first year there, I was new. So I kind of just laid low, did my thing, dug in, did my teaching. But I also had another new science teacher who was on the other team. So we would always compare data and, obvious things you would see. We had a very similar mindset on teaching, getting out the content, how we arranged our standards. We might have differed from the district layout a little bit, but we did what we thought was best for the students. So that's one thing I can always say. Whenever you're doing anything, even if you think you're going to get pushback, think to yourself, is this what's best for the students? So Mr. Joey was the other science teacher. And then Mr. Unger, of course, it's me, was teaching science. We were going through, and before we even got to the end of the first year, we were like, this is really, really just the way these students are grouped. It's not very fair. And of course, as soon as we started to touch on this conversation and we said it in like some PLCs, it started a bit of some drama, if you can imagine that, when we wanted to break up and say, hey, I think maybe we should see a little bit of a mix of ECE, ESL students mixed in with the AP and not have this definite line down the middle. Surprisingly, the first ones that jumped in to come after that idea were the ECE and the ESL contact teachers. And I was kind of surprised, but then, they really had a good argument. And they'd say, well, if we keep them together, it makes it much easier for us to get our contact hours going out and giving them services. So we kind of took that and we went, oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, we don't want to make your job, too difficult. You're not going to get your hours. And then we had a little bit more pushback, and this came from the admin side saying, we got to be careful with what we talk about and how this comes out, because this is really going to be a big deal on our side. We're going to have to, we would be looking at schedule changes that we've never done before. And so we took that and, we kind of went back and dug into our foxhole there and said, so what does this mean for us? So they don't want to mix ECE, ESL, and kind of into the higher end AP and GT, the gifted and talented students. And we really just went and said, it was inequitable because you're saying that no ECE or ESL students have AP or gifted tendencies in any content area. And I think this is where we started a much larger conversation that spread out, and it really was a good thing. It ended up showing that we needed to break these students up because while you may need special assistance, especially if you're ESL in your language arts, you may be really gifted at, say, social studies or science or really high-end math content, because some of those, especially like math, that really goes above some language concepts because numbers are somewhat universal for many kids, many adults for that fact. So we did that pushback, and I got to say, it ended up taking hold the next year. They're like, oh, well, we'll try it with the eighth grade teams. And it was obvious, just it had great effects. One of the things, with science that we really started pushing on was the hands-on teaching in science. And I kind of went more with that. And I would always push on my, Mr. Joey, the other science teacher, and say, you need to do more hands-on. Don't be afraid of it. He would always say, oh, it's a little bit, we have the ECE students and we can't, do as many things with, getting things out. And science for me, it's always been tough to get a science teacher. So I've never had to worry about, oh man, I don't know, what am I going to do if I need a job? Science teachers are always in need. But for me, science is like the easiest thing, as long as you're letting the kids have fun with it and do things. To this day, I will be with students that are far past graduating high school, and they'll see me and I get very upset. And my wife's a librarian and she'll say, do you not remember? And I'm like, I do not remember, because you're looking at, 150 students every year over a decade. I do not remember all the students. And they'll be like, Mr. Unger, I remember doing, egg drop from the roof of the school, doing a graham cracker plate tectonics, learning how the plates move. That was awesome. We got to eat the frosting. When students miss out on those opportunities, we really need to look at ourselves. Are we doing what's best for the students? The fact that they can remember what a lesson was, and not that's like, oh, we went and did this, it was fun, but they can tell me why we did it. Those are the pieces I hold on to. So yes, hands-on learning is great, but being able to give those experiences to the students that really need it, that's what's important to me. Are you doing what's best for students? So don't ever be afraid to push back and ask those tough questions. It may be something that's very big. And one of those answers I never like is, well, this is the way we've always done it. That doesn't mean that's what's best for kids. So ask yourself what's best for kids. If it takes a rearranging of schedule, a moving around of teachers to cover different areas, teacher issue wasn't even there, because when the ESL students were grouped together for language arts, they still got their contact hours. ECE would pick up where they needed to, and maybe they had to bump to a couple extra classes, but the outcomes for the students more than made up for that. Tiny bit of trouble for the teachers. So take that, enjoy it, get what you can from that. Main thing for me, always make sure you're asking yourself what's best for the students. And I will hopefully see you next week with another video, Mr. Unger's Fireside Chats, Sunday evening. I'll see you guys then.